beautiful.
Hello, lovers of the world. This is Sinta speaking. I love listening to new music. It's really fun to find new things to obsess over, whether that's a new album, a new artist, or a new song. I'm always trying to chase that sense of joy and triumph of finding something new to love. It's the beginning of the month, so it is once again time to look back and reflect and rank all of the albums and EPs that I listened to in the previous month. As you can see, we're back on the same tier list but with new additions to rank. I want to keep all of my previous things that I ranked in the same list so I can compare everything that I ranked from this point onwards in the same place. Usually before ranking, I do explain my tier list rules and the grading system behind it, but to save us some time, I've decided to omit them in this video. But hopefully the tier list names are self-explanatory enough that you can still follow along. However, if you do want to know for sure, you are welcome to watch last month's music review video where I do explain the system in that video. My reviewing style relies entirely on how I feel about the album. I don't really have any musical theory background. I don't know anything about music production or composition or whatever. If I know nothing else about music, I at least know how it makes me feel. I've also added the timestamps of each album in the description so you can skip to whatever album you want to listen to if you want to only watch those parts. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to what I listened to in June. This video's band t-shirt is Phaser Days. Woohoo! I bought this at a Lorde concert when she opened for Lorde in 2023. Yes, exactly. This is more or less in the order of which I listened to in. First, I listened to Yves' long-awaited solo debut EP Loop, released in 2024. And for those who don't know, Yves used to be, I say Yves, okay, leave me alone. Yves was a member of Luna before they disbanded, and she is in a new company now. And everyone's been really eagerly awaiting for her to drop new music, which she has. Personally, I think it's a high quality project with a pretty solid title track. But it does make me curious whether she'll continue with this two-step sound in the future or if it's just a matter of strategically following the trends like everybody else right now. I did find it interesting that Yves was not credited in the songs in this EP when she's participated in songwriting before. She's even helped some of the other Luna girls assemble with a B-side from last year. So it did surprise me a bit that to find that like at least wasn't credited in her own debut EP, but it does make me really hopeful for her future endeavors, and I really want to know where she takes her musical style and her musical identity from this point onwards. However, I am a little bit annoyed that there's only 4 tracks in this EP. I think an EP should have 5 songs, like 5 songs only. Like 6 is already like a bit too much for an EP. For me. 5 is the perfect, like, and they're only correct number of tracks, personally. Okay, that's my opinion. And since this EP is so short, I feel like I can't really grade it any higher than Gems Found in the Mind. My favorite song in this EP is Afterglow. And then I listened to Rizz by Soojin. This is her second EP. And for those who don't know, Soojin was an ex-member of G-Idol. She has gone on to pursue a solo career, and I actually think she's doing pretty well. Her debut title track, Agassi, like I thought it was a good quality title track, but it wasn't like, for me, it didn't speak to me. Same thing with this. I think Mona Lisa as a title track is fine, and I actually kind of like she's kind of doing what Sunmi was doing, where all of her title track titles is related to like a woman. So Agassi was like woman in, I think, a Korean dialect, whereas Mona Lisa is like, you know, Mona Lisa, the famous painting. I actually really like the EP a lot. Soojin has always been a top tier vocalist, but paired with producers who are unencumbered by other members to cater to and are extremely motivated to give her music that she sounds her best in, Soojin really shines as a standout soloist to me. The B-side highlights for myself are Rizz Me Up. I really enjoy Soojin's ultra feminine and delicate delivery. It sells the song to me despite its corny title and awful lyrics. It's become one of my more favorite liquid drum and bass K-pop songs of the year. I also really love Lime, Tide, Drop Top, and Summer Days. So basically all the other songs. Like I literally like all the B-sides, and the only song I don't like is the title track. So for that, I am gonna put this in French Toast because it's a good EP. And then I listened to Tortured Poets Department Anthology by Taylor Swift, released in 2024. If you're not up to date with my last video, I only reviewed the first 15 tracks of Tortured Poets Department in what I listened to in May because I didn't like the album very much and I couldn't bring myself to listen to the bonus tracks when I was already so exhausted from listening to the first 15 tracks. So I decided to split them up, and here are my thoughts on the anthology bonus tracks. I definitely like this a lot more than the first half, like not by much. All the weaknesses that I pointed out previously in my last video, they're still there, and the strengths are, I think, a little bit more seen in the second half. I think there were ideas and stories here that, again, could have and should have been fleshed out more. But I feel that there were more tracks here that were more fully realized than in the first half. The amount of fully realized songs were more here than there were in this first half. I hope that makes sense. The second half could have easily passed for a third sister album to Folklore and Evermore because of the vibes, and I think generally the stories and feelings and emotions that she's tapping into. I just wish that the album was just that instead of whatever the heck the first 15 tracks were. I don't know. I definitely have a lot more thoughts about the album, and in fact I even have a lot of thoughts about each track, but I decided that if I shared them all in this video that it would unbalance the video too much because this segment would be too long. So Tortured Poets Department Anthology is officially getting its own review video in the future. Look forward to it and pray that for me, I hope the Swifties don't dox me for giving a rather lukewarm response to the album because that's just my opinion. Gems found in the mind. And then I listened to Ehhthang by Glorilla. This is a debut commercial mixtape released in 2024. I'm gonna count it as an album in my stats because it's long enough for that, okay? I'll be honest and say that my current efforts to get into hip-hop/rap is fully fueled and motivated by the Kendrick Drake beef. I think it made me realize that even though I listen to some hip-hop music or hip-hop adjacent artists, that I never committed to fully understanding hip-hop as a genre. I know a little bit about its history and its importance in, American history. The spectacle of the Kendrick Drake beef was just too delicious for me to... It made me realize that I think I shouldn't be tied to spectacles and celebrity. Like my conception of hip-hop shouldn't start and end with this thing, and that's why I'm making a stronger effort to actually broaden my horizons for it. Long story. Another reason why I'm not super into hip-hop is that as a genre, it is very much about being confident. It's very competitive, and it's, I guess in my head, it's confrontational. Like you're very much expected to be in each other's faces, as seen by the Kendrick Drake beef. And I'm not competitive. I am not confident, and I'm not confrontational. So I think that's why I've always strayed away from hip hop. It fundamentally is not me. And again, I'm trying to change that. So every time I listen to hip hop, I feel like this meme because I'm such a nerd. But again, I'm trying to listen more, and it's a matter, I think, of settling into the genre, getting used to the conventions, and finding people I like. So I picked this record. I know that I'll have more success if I started off with a female rapper, with somebody I felt was actually a little bit more accessible. Hence this very pop and dance adjacent record. I actually found out about Glorilla because the music video for Wannabe featuring Megan Thee Stallion was recommended to me on YouTube, and that's why I decided to pick. And Wannabe for me is definitely the standout track in the album. Glorilla has great chemistry with Megan, whereas some of the other songs in the album, I think they're catchy and they're fun, but I don't know if this is an album that I can see myself coming back into frequently. So I'm gonna put this in the most album ever. B-side highlights include No B. I said that so whack, but it's no B, like no bitch. The chorus has interesting wordplay. I ain't no bitch in me, the straightforward interpretation, but it could also be ain't no bitchin' me, as in you can't bitch me, you can't subdue me. I'm too powerful for you to do that. I'm too strong for you to do. And the same rules apply to the second half of the chorus. I see bitching you, as in I am in the process of bitching you. So I'm not beating the nerd allegations the way I just explained that. I'm so. And then I listened to Neck Deep's self-titled album released in 2024. I've never heard of this band before, but their first album was released in 2014, which was exactly 10 years ago. Apparently, this band is from the UK, but they got that American accent down. I'm very impressed because I heard it and I was like, oh, they must be American. And I looked into their page and they're like from the UK. The album is very straightforward pop punk, but I enjoy it. It's fun. I like it for what it is. The lyrics are really juvenile and immature that I can't help but roll my eyes at the idea of this band of 30 or 40 something year old men singing as if they're still in their early 20s. But it is par for the course for the pop punk genre, this immaturity, so I'm gonna let it slide. I've just gotten accustomed to this like kind of childish masculinity that's really present in pop punk. But something about this album kind of made me I like this album a little bit more than I should have, which is that I personally think that punk as a genre should stay as revolutionary adjacent as possible, like resistance coded, That's so weird. This album would have stayed in French Toast if it wasn't for the track We Need More Bricks. And I guess I've just gotten so used to pop punk being not angry enough at the establishment that my bar has literally hit the floor. But I was kind of impressed by this, especially in kind of the socio-political, cultural climate that we're in right now. And it did endear the album to me a little bit more. So because of that, I'm going to bump it to year-end list material. If you have any recommendations of punk bands that are a lot more explicitly political, please leave them down in the comments so I can check them out. Thank you. And then I listened to Brat. Oh my god, category 5 mother quake. Charli XCX shat in the mother toilet. What else? She emerged from the mother lake. She graduated the Universicanti of Servology with a minor in mothering and a major in slaying. She has a PhD degree in Boots the House Down. Whatever, this is a great album, okay? I want to say that this is one of Charli's best works, but that doesn't make sense because I feel like everything that Charli puts out is really incredibly high quality, so it doesn't sound right. Brat is a perfect album. It's not my favorite Charli XCX album though. My favorite Charli XCX album is How I'm Feeling Now, but Brat is still really, really, really good. And then eventually she did release Brat, and it's the same, but there's 3 songs, so it's not, which had some really banging bonus tracks. As a body of work, I actually prefer Brat in its original form because I really love that the album starts off with 360, and I love that it ends on 365. It feels like we've reached full circle, a real 360, as so to speak. And I love that the second to last track is this really poignant and beautiful song. I think about it all the time, which being placed last to me recontextualizes the entire project. And that song has made me cry. Like, I don't know, like that song is so moving to me that if it wasn't for 360, I would have wanted that to be the closer, I really like this track order. To me, it feels cohesive. And as much as I like the bonus tracks, I value the sanctity of Brat in its original form more. In fact, the bonus tracks themselves, while they are really, really memorable and they're really, really catchy, and they have like a thesis statement each one, and it's incredibly different to each one, they're not as, I think, captivating as what was already in the album in its original form. Sense like that, I can see why they're bonus tracks. Brat will get its own dedicated review so I can better explain what I mean, so keep an eye out for that in the future. I also really wish that the rumor that there's gonna be a full remix album is true, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high. But I really would love to have all of these remixes in the same place, and maybe I can put that in your endless material too, because this is for sure going in your endless. Brat is going in your endless, but I would love to see like an actual full, like an entire, literally Brat, but just remixes. That would be so freaking incredible. And then I listened to Britpop by A.G. Cook. This was released in 2024. It's funny the way that they've decided to release each other's things. I'm pretty sure Britpop came first, and clearly that was done so that you know, when Charli releases her album, Britpop isn't completely overshadowed by the Brat release, considering that, you know, AG Cook is a really prolific producer. But Charli XCX is, you know, the pop girly pop. I actually didn't expect to love Britpop. I wasn't even planning on listening to the album because the last time I tried to listen to an AG Cook album, I wasn't very successful. But I think I finally reached a point in my musical journey where I could handle it. Because the thing with AG Cook is that he is such a multitudinous producer. I don't know if multitudinous, a producer that contains so many different styles, contains multitudes, you know, multitudinous producer, that he was sometimes too avant-garde for me to fully understand and comprehend unless he was making more pop-centric songs like for Charli XCX. And this album is kind of an example of that multitudinousness. This album is split into 3 discs and is like 1.5 hours long, which is a really daunting prospect, but I felt like because it was split into 3 parts, it was more doable. All my favorite tracks are kind of spread across the album, but it definitely felt like I relished disc 2 the most. My few joys in life is hearing a song in public and immediately recognizing and remembering what it's called, and 2, there are those instances where I'm so attuned to my friends' music taste that when I hear a song or an album that I like for the first time, I know that they're gonna go crazy for it too. So when I listened to disc 2, I was like, you should, even if you don't listen to the full album, you should at least try to listen to disc 2. And they did listen to disc 2 and they loved it, and I was like, well, yes. For me, that's such a sweet triumph. Disc 2 to me felt like, the only way I could describe it is very Jane Remover coded, and I don't know what freaking genre that's supposed to fall under, but it did make me feel really good. So I am just gonna be generous again, and I'll put this in year-end list material. And then I listened to Dall by ARTMS. This was released in 2024. Again, Luna stands Rise Up. ARTMS contains the members from the K-pop girl group Luna, and then they're re-debuting again. I've always loved Odd Eye Circle. Back when Luna was active the most, that was my favorite subunit, and ARTMS is basically Odd Eye Circle plus 2 of their other best vocalists. So it's kind of like, well, of course everybody's like really excited for this release because they've been also releasing the other B-side tracks like Flower Rhythm, Candy Crush, Birth, really highly anticipated. And if you look at the charts and rate your music right now, this is really high on that list. I'm a bit at a crossroads personally because I love the album. I don't know if it deserves to be that high. I think, like, again, I think the album is really good, but it's either I've outgrown their sound mostly, or I've just been surrounded by that sound for too long that I've kind of gotten too accustomed to it, or worst case scenario, like I've gotten sick of it almost. But the highs are still high and the lows are not really that low. I think they're just like, I feel like I expected a little bit more from them. Regardless, I am going to be extra generous and I'm going to put this in year-end list material anyway. It's still really good, and my favorite tracks include Virtual Angel. Oh my god, I love capital LOVE, love that track. It is, I think, seriously, the best title track. I said it, the best title track of K-pop 2024. The best. Usually I say one of the best. No, it's the best. It feels like you're flying through the sky. It's euphoric. It's ethereal. It's celestial. The first line is so poetic and it just captures the essence of the song. The other highlights include Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Flower Rhythm, and Unfair. And then I listened to Now and Then by Khai Dreams. This was released in 2019. I remember Khai Dreams from my 2019 bedroom pop era. I have since moved on to other musicians until I came across one of his songs again by chance, and I decided to like listen to it again. And listening to it has kind of made me just realize how far I've gone in terms of my musical taste, because I used to really love Khai Dreams' songs, but now I feel like even though this album is pleasant and catchy pop music, it's not particularly stimulating or challenging enough or thought-provoking enough for me to like feel like I took something out of it. I still enjoyed the project, but I feel like this is kind of background music almost, like, I'm sorry to say. So I'm gonna put this in the most album ever. My favorite songs are Untangled and Brand New, which retains the Khai Dreams' idyllic lyricisms that are present throughout the album, but has a grungier edge instrumental-wise that appeals to me. I also really like Sandals. And then I listened to Saints and Sinners by All Saints. This was released in 2000. I was listening to somebody else's Spotify playlist when I came across this song called Pure Shores, and it instantly took me back to a specific time in my childhood. I like forgot that this song existed until I heard it again. So I decided to go and actually check out who this band was and listen to the rest of the album. All Saints is a girl group from the UK, which maybe explains why I only knew one song, because when this album dropped, I was still living in the Philippines, and I don't think that they as a band really reached us there aside from this one song. The album has some catchy tunes that are again very 2000s, and the vocals have a lot of sass and personality. I actually like enjoyed it a decent amount, but I don't know if I see myself returning to this frequently. So I'm gonna put this in the most album ever. And then I listened to BBX by Purple Kiss. Purple Kiss is a K-pop girl group. I feel like my relationship with Purple Kiss is very up and down almost, because depending on the title track that they release, and usually their title tracks are like a miss for me, I tend to not check out the EP that came with it if it didn't speak to me, and they tend to not speak to me. And then this one, I kind of got the impression that it was like a girl crush concept, and usually I don't really like girl crush concept. I feel like I tend to stay away from them because of that. But my friend was like, you should listen to this, and I did. I was actually really surprised because I feel like the aesthetics that they marketed this comeback with didn't really match with what the title track ended up sounding like, or even what the rest of the EP sounded like. If they had just like tweaked the marketing or even just the aesthetics or the concepts for this like comeback, I think I would have listened to this way earlier, because I'm pretty sure this came out in like February, and I just wasn't interested enough in listening to the comeback because of like what I assumed it was going to sound like. Anyway, BBB, Bad Behavior, which I liked. That's a good title track, understated but effortlessly chic and still very sweet. The B-side highlights for me are Toy Boy and Heart Attack and Voyager. It's a good EP. I'm going to put this in Gems Found in the Mind. And then I listened to N.A. by Nayeon, released in 2024. This was a really good album. I'm actually like, okay, here's the thing. I loved Pop, the title track. Didn't really like the album. I thought it was kind of lackluster in my opinion. For this album, don't really like the title track ABCD. Love this album. Really solid. I definitely prefer it over the album. I think it's a definite improvement in my opinion, but only because the album definitely leans more into the R&B genre, and I've never really seen Nayeon or even Twice super duper lean into R&B. I feel like it's not really their thing. The features from Julie and Samkin are pretty good. In terms of the title track, ABCD, it's giving early 2000s pop diva. I can already imagine the mood board that JYP Entertainment had when they were crafting this comeback's aesthetic. Crazy in Love Beyonce era. Boa from the early 2000s. Lee Hyori, 10 Minutes. I think that the song should have been given to Jihyo. And it's not to say that Nayeon didn't serve in this comeback, she just did. But I just have this idea of Nayeon that I wish that she stuck to. Like, this image I have of her is very much informed with Pop, which again I love. I loved Pop. I think it suited her really, really well. It would have been so slay if Jihyo did it instead, but it's okay. Regardless, ABCD is still my least favorite track of the album. Otherwise, I really love all the B-sides here. So I'm going to be generous again. I'm going to put this in your endless material. And then I listened to Snow Angel by Renee Rapp, released in 2023. This is her debut album, I'm pretty sure. Renee Rapp is one of those like pop girlies that gets lumped into Olivia Rodrigo, Love, like Gracie Abrams, like the girlies, you know, the pop girlies. Going into this album, I had such a hard time reconciling the idea of Renee Rapp with the actual music in this album, because the idea I had of Renee Rapp was very informed by her Mean Girls movie promotional single with Megan Thee Stallion, which is a song called Not My Fault. I didn't like it, and I thought it was boring and derivative. I just, for some reason, thought that that was what the rest of Renee Rapp's discography was gonna sound like. It kind of reminds me of the relationship or the experience I had when I was trying to get into Sabrina Carpenter's discography. All of the singles on her debut album were like sugary, feminine pop music. And then when you go into the B-sides, it was like singer-songwriter indie vibes. And I was like, I feel like I've been lied to. And it's not like an intentional thing on Renee Rapp's part, I'm pretty sure Snow Angel came out either before. It wasn't as if the label was trying to like willfully deceive me, unlike what I thought the Sabrina Carpenter people were. I just expected Renee Rapp to sound something completely different. And honestly, like, this album definitely sounds better than Not My Fault. Like, I would take this album over that song any day. Not My Fault was not a really good display of her skills, and this one clearly is, because of course this is her own debut album. This is what she wanted to do. This is her vision. She has a great voice, but obviously that's what happens when you start off on Broadway. The songwriting is fairly decent quality, but honestly it's nothing that sets her apart from her pop girly contemporaries, in my opinion. In fact, there were some tracks here that I think came across as too juvenile and immature. I really hated the song Poison Poison. I didn't like that at all. At the end of the day, the album is well made and well executed, but it is just not for me. I kind of feel the same way about this album as I do with Olivia Rodrigo's music, where I can tell that it's a good pop album with rock influences, but none of the stories really speak to me, and so I think I'm gonna just put this in Gems Found in the Mind. The highlights are I Hate Boston, Gemini Moon, and So What Now. I like those songs. I don't know how often I'll revisit them in the future unless I go through major heartbreak in the next couple of months. And then lastly, I listened to Armageddon by Aespa. This is their full-length debut album released in 2024. I'm so grateful that Aespa went back to their OG techno freaky deaky sleigh boots cunty alternative what if I gets hacked artificial intelligence computer matrix concept, because I never would have forgiven SM Entertainment if they had just kept them in the US with their bland as English pop songs. Glad that they went back to their original concept, because Spicy was fine. Drama was actually not that bad either. But this is, to me, where Aespa has carved a space for themselves. I love the music video for Armageddon and Supernova. So Supernova was the pre-debut single, which was actually really, really good. Loved it. And then Armageddon is the title track. The music video is so incredible. Creative direction for this group is truly immaculate, and it's hard to separate the visual art from the music. Similar to how I feel about ARTMS's Virtual Angel music video, I think it's totally fair to say that the visuals elevate the songs, and which isn't really a bad thing. I know it's like easy to assume that it does, like, oh my god, why do you need a visual crutch to appreciate the music? I just mean that they're both of these were made with each other in mind, and it's just not fair to judge one without necessarily considering the other. That being said, I definitely realized that I like it a lot less without the visuals. And like, well, yeah, of course, because you know the visuals are the visuals. If I had to compare though between the pre-debut the pre-release single or the title track itself, I definitely think I like Supernova a little bit more because it's more Aespa coded than Armageddon, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. But Supernova is a bit sillier, campier, as evidenced by the memes that have emerged from Supernova and its music video compared to Armageddon and its music video. I think Armageddon is a little bit more like serious, which makes sense considering that Armageddon is saddled with the responsibility of being the title track, whereas Supernova, I think, has more space to be sillier. And what I mean by Supernova being more Aespa coded is that Armageddon to me feels like a repurposed NCT 127 song. To me, it's no secret that SM Entertainment shuffles songs between their artists. Like, that's just how it is when you're an entertainment house, you know? Like, that's what happens when you have multiple groups and they all share the same resources. My hot take is that NCT and Aespa share the same pool of producers and demo songs, and that is a sentiment that not just relates to the title tracks but also the B-sides. Songs like Set the Tone I think would have sounded better with NCT, as Aespa I feel like isn't really selling me the fantasy with their delivery. As for the album, I think it is not that bad. It is not great, but it's not bad. It's a little all over the place, but honestly that's literally 85% of full-length K-pop album. You kind of have to get ready to feel the full force of tonal dissonance when you go into K-pop, because one minute you're listening to a hard ass song like Mine, which I love by the way, and then the next you're listening to frigging Bahamas. Okay, if it was up to me, Aespa would leave behind the cutesy girl group songs entirely and focus their energy on their distinct campy flavor of girl crush with songs like Supernova, Mine, and even Armageddon, with occasionally dipping their toes into sweeter R&B songs like Prologue, or even, songs like Thirsty and Lucid Dreams, Not to say that they didn't completely body the cutesier songs that were given to them, like Bahamas, Long Chat. They did, but I think it would give them a stronger musical identity if they practiced restraint. Because in music, the musical styles that you choose to not do is just as important as the ones that you do choose to do. But again, restraint isn't really something that I expect to see in K-pop. It's like asking shoegaze to not be loud or asking a fish to not swim. It's just par for the course to be throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. And that's okay. It is what it is. This is just like their first full-length album. I fully expect them to, hopefully get more better over time. And as much as I like this album and its songs, I feel like I can't fully give it French toast status, because I do ask that Aespa at this stage in their career, they need to be a little bit more cohesive. They need to be a little bit more holistic than what this is. I feel like Red Velvet can do it, NCT, can do it, and there's no excuse for SM Entertainment to not do the same with Aespa. So I'm gonna put this in Gems Found in the Mind. My B-side highlights are Mine. I think that's my favorite song of the album. And I also really like Live My Life. Like, I know that's not what I even asked Aespa. Like, I literally said that, oh yeah, you should just stick to this particular thing. And then Live My Life is like, what the hell is this? It's like Disney Channel, but like fun still, so I like it. I Contain Multitudes. And that's it. That's all I listened to this month. Let's look at it once more. And here are the stats for this month. I listened to 3 EPs and 11 LPs. 11 projects were released in 2024, and the other 3 were from different years. I listened to 1 album in 2000, 1 album in the 2010s, and then 12 albums in 2020. In total, I listened to 14 projects this month, which tallies up my total for 2024 to be 89 musical projects. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. I'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts were on the albums and EPs that I listened to in the comment section. Woo! And if you want to see more of my work, you're welcome to subscribe. I try to post whenever I can. And my social media links are down in the description, alongside my Ko-fi and Patreon pages if you guys want to support my work financially. Otherwise, I can't wait to share my love with you again next time. I'll see you soon. Okay, okay. Here we go. When you want the coffee, I'm bumping that.